Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Danny here, and today we are talking about Hungry Marie. So, Hungry Marie, it was in Weekly Shonen Jump, and it started in 2017 and sadly ended in 2017. This series got canceled. It had roughly, I think it was 32 chapters in total. This was written and drawn by Ryuhei Tamura. Now, this guy is the mangaka for Beelzebub. I saw he also did something else as well, but this is a mangaka I really like. Beelzebub, I know I haven't really talked about it or did a review for this, but it's a really good manga, great anime, I highly recommend it. It's one of the, in my opinion, one of the top Jump series, like definitely A tier, minimum. Really good stuff. Great shonen, delinquent manga. It's got demons, great characterization, and all that fantastic stuff. So this is this guy, and it's sad to hear this series get canceled because I remember when this got announced, right? Because it's like, oh, Beelzebub creator drops this, because Beelzebub ended in 2015, and then he did a pretty much tying up loose ends or something. He did like a few chapters later, continuing off of the ending for Beelzebub, just to continue a few things from the ending for there. And then I believe he did an art book. And then this is the series right after. And Beelzebub lasted for a good while. That was like over 240 chapters, I believe. And in my opinion, yeah, it's a strong series, enough to get the main character Oga into J-Stars. So, you know, this guy Ryuhei, he's up there as far as I'm concerned for Shonen Jump mangakas. And when I heard that Hungry Marie was coming out, I was like, oh, cool, a new series from this guy. Another layer to add to why I like this mangaka is I just found out recently that he used to be an assistant on the other Shonen Jump series, Siren. I like Siren a lot. I think that's a really great manga. I plan on collecting the whole series physically. It's really great stuff. Super underrated in my opinion. You know, once I read that, I'm like, it makes sense. You know, the art style sort of similar, character designs are sort of similar, and just quality is similar. So what happened, man? 32 chapters, series gets canceled, doesn't even last a year. Hungry Marie. It's sad to say, and I didn't read it until now, right? Because it's already 3 years old at this point. And the reason was because I wanted to save up some volumes, because I did want to read this and talk about it on the podcast, because again, I like this mangaka. I think he does great stuff. You know, this, if I'm not mistaken, this came out during the weird time of Shonen Jump. And what I mean is they were really trying to do a lot with their manga and just trying to figure out what's going to be the next big hit. If I'm not mistaken, right, because this is 3 years ago now, so you have the big hitters like Promised Neverland, Black Clover, you know, coming around this time frame, and all those really short mangas that have come and gone that I haven't even looked at yet. Like I know for sure one was Robot Laser Beam, I think it's called, or Robot Laser, and that's that golf manga. I think Shonen Jump was really going out there when it came to that stuff. It probably heard it for the worst because there was just other series more entertaining. Right? So let's go ahead and get into this series, man. What is the main premise? Well, chapter 1 just starts us with our main character, and we also see our other main characters, supporting characters for the series, and this is where I got worried here. So we have Taiga, our main protagonist, and then we also have Anna, our female protagonist, and then we also have our other main lead, which is Marie, who is the focus of this entire series. These characters are just the beginning of the problem, to where they look so similar to characters in Beelzebub, right? Anna's father looks like, I believe his name was Frederick, if I'm not mistaken, in Beelzebub, which is sort of like just this weird demon in there. But once I saw all these faces, and you know, it's the similar art style for sure. It's pretty much just where he left off, and I'm not saying that hurts him, but this is what got me worried. I was like, oh man, you know, you never really see it too often, but you never really see a big mangaka come back to do another series, right? At least I haven't really seen it. Like Kubo, sure. Hiro, yeah. Kishimoto, in a sense. Toriyama, but I mean, does Super really count? And do those one-shot series actually count? Aside from all that, we get these guys Taiga looks like Olga, Marie looks like Hilde, Anna looks like this lolly nurse from Beelzebub. And then there was a lot of humor, like borderline gag moments in the first chapter, and that had me worried. I was like, oh, okay, we're going into a different direction. Now, mind you, I went in blind, right? I was just like, I have no idea what's going on. So I just want to go in because I'm like, I like this mangaka, so why not just go ahead and get into it? And basically the main premise, it's a little interesting for sure. It starts off with our main character Taiga. Like I said, he lives in a shrine. He practices kung fu. He has this best friend. He protects him basically because his friend gets bullied all the time and he's super strong. So the delinquent aspect is still here that we are all familiar with if you are fans of Beelzebub. And then next door is his childhood crush, which is Anna, and she lives across the street at a different church. Christian church is from what it looks like. They never really talk because they were kind of told not to talk to each other from Taiga's grandmother and then Anna's father, because they have beef with, like, these families have beef with each other, I guess. So they never really talked, and it's been years later. Now we're in high school. He's like, I just want to confess, I've never, really tried to date a girl before this and that. And then while he's thinking, at a classic anime trope, right at the river, and he sees her, and it's like, oh, what is she doing here? And then she pulls out some stuff and starts trying to do a summoning ritual. And it's like, hey, what are you doing? And, she kind of explained what's going on, and she's like, all right, cool. Brings her back to the church. I got the sacrifice. Huh? And then this is where the humor started kicking in, where I was like, okay. Basically, their plan is to resurrect Marie, who is their ancestor who served one of the queens in France. We're not told why at this point anyways. So he's tied up. They're trying to figure out how to do this ritual. A lot of comedy. He's talking to Anna and basically confesses that he's liked her this whole time, and they've never really talked. And right when he confesses, he gets hit by lightning, comes out of the hole from the ground, and they ask, like, hey, are you right? Do you remember your name? He's like, yeah, of course. I'm Taiga Bijoji, 15 years old. And when he comes out, he has transformed into Marie, which looks like Hilda from Beelzebub, which is the slightly different hairstyle. And that starts off this series. And when we have to get right into the next chapter because it's going to explain what else happens here, right? So where he's like, oh, but it's Marie, right, coming out, but it's still Taiga's consciousness. So what happened? Did they mess up the ritual? What's going on? And then at a certain point, after they start, it's like, okay, well, you're just going to have to pretend to be her now. And it's like, huh? I don't think so. You got to fix this. And then they talk, they look back at Taiga, and then he transformed back to his normal body. It's like, oh, it's over. He reverted back. But then when he talks, it's not Taiga anymore. It's Marie. So they did end up bringing her back in physical form, but now she and Taiga are stuck with an inverse, right? So when we see Marie's body, it's Taiga. When we see Taiga's body, it's Marie. And that is basically the premise of the entire series, with added elements to the plot to progress it. And overall, I thought it was a good time. Unfortunately, the build-up has to take a while with these kinds of mangas, right? Because it's very similar to how Gintama did it, essentially, right? To where in Gintama, a lot of gags, a lot of humor, some cool stuff here and there, but it was slow build-up until we got to an actually big arc that was serious, that really added lore and continuing it forward type of deal, right? And here we were getting that. We were getting a lot of stuff that was very comedic or just very slice of life, high school stuff with minor comedic bits, and then some serious stuff, right? Because I think the biggest thing Ryuhei has to offer is, with his art style, is definitely the fighting panels that he can do. The choreography is great. Just the way he stylizes it is fantastic. And when we get those moments, it's great. And I thought, I'm like, oh, okay, so we're trying to figure out what we are as a series before we move forward. And unfortunately, fans did not give it enough time to flesh out. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Jump gives you a 10-chapter notice, right? Because they have their quarterly meetings, all the editors, if Bakuman is still correct. And they look at the ratings, right? Because every Shonen Jump magazine, you can rank all the series that you read, and then they pretty much go based off of that, and whatever's not performing well, that's like in the bottom 5, they have to pick pick a few to axe, because they have new series to come in. They have to have one shots come in. Unfortunately, this got axed, and again, like I said, 10 chapters, but everything felt smooth until maybe the last 4 chapters, to where the plot got super rushed right when it kicked up basically to what we were going to get to at the end. And then it ends so abruptly for the last chapter, and it's like, oh yeah, so this had basically, it recapped us in the last chapter, and the ending was pretty meh, as far as, it's like, okay, let's just not really go with whatever character development we had with anybody, and let's throw in a bunch of stuff that I wanted in the ending anyways, and then it just ends. It really sucks to see a manga go this route, unfortunately getting canceled, and then having to really rush the ending, because again, it was building up rather nicely. We did get some development between our main 3 characters, right, with Anna, Taiga, and Marie. You know, it's an interesting dynamic between the 3 of them, and it's that classic shonen thing, to where Taiga likes Anna, Anna likes Taiga, and I forgot to mention, when Taiga got struck by lightning, when he confessed to Anna, he lost his memory at that moment, so he doesn't remember confessing, but she still knows. You know, it's that kind of route for this kind of manga. You could tell the lightheartedness with it when Taiga's just like, hey guys, this is my love story. You know, we sidetrack it going into stuff with Marie as it focuses on her with other characters that are pretty interesting. He comes in a surprising way that was pretty cool. Just says like, hey, don't forget, this is my love story, all right? You can't ignore the main character type of deal. And, you know, there's some fun stuff there. I definitely chuckled a few times at some of the humor. Other than that, you know, there was definitely some interesting progress with what we were going to be able to do with Marie in the series. Again, with the rushed ending, we had no time to really delve into it, and then they just like gave us this rushed thing that didn't make sense. I think the biggest downfall for the way it ended is the relationships between our 3 main characters. It just kind of like doesn't go anywhere at all. It started building up right before the rush happened, right before the cancellation. And it's like, well, let's just not even go through it. Let's just finish this up. It's unfortunate to see him go through this right after a successful manga like Beelzebub. I know he had a one-shot before this that I want to check out as well. But yeah, so that was already 3 years ago, really hoping that he could come back strong for his next series. It honestly made me want to reread Beelzebub more than anything, but I definitely did want to see a lot more. And again, it was just that weird time period with Shonen Jump where they were shuffling around, trying to figure out, hey, we need bigger hits right now, you know, and especially right now, as the time of this recording, right, because big series are going to be ending. Promised Neverland is one. If I'm not mistaken, maybe Demon Slayer is ending too. We're entering its final arc or something. And those are big hitters. For them to go away, it's like, oh, that's a vacuum. We need to replace it with something. I can understand why they have to be really cutthroat. It just sucks to see. You know, it does remind me of the days when they did experiment, which was cool. Back in the day with Shonen Jump, they did this basically in the Marvel Comics term, the Young Guns, and what that meant was, hey, here's a bunch of new mangakas coming in with short stories for you guys to read, and let us know what you guys think. If it's popular enough, then, you know, maybe they could come back for sure, guaranteed a series. And there was actually some great work in there. Hungry Joker, Tagamagahara are ones. I reviewed a manga. One of the mangas I talked about before was from the Hungry Joker guy. And that's what this kind of feels like right now with this era of Jump. There's just so much weirdness and variety going on. It's like we have to be cutthroat because we have to be finding these gems in the rough, you know. And unfortunately, Hungry Mary was just not it at the time. But overall, I do think it was a good time. Check it out. I think it's worth the read for what we were given, you know, because again, I got interested into the world, like slowly building up the world, right? We're showing organizations, factions, and, you know, it wasn't until these last rush chapters do we find out that there's even an antagonist for the series. I was thinking one route, but then it just went out this other way, and it's like, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. And plus it being rushed does not help at all. But I don't know, it was getting slice of life. And I thought that was fine. The balance of the action and the comedy, if they gave it more time, I think we would still see it today. Because again, like 32 chapters, I was thinking, like, well, I mean, you can tell a good story like that. But the stuff Ryuhei was building up, I could see it going for a good while. Again, unfortunate to see it go, but glad I was able to read what was out. And I believe that's like 4 or 5 volumes. Yeah, man, that's really all I have to say for Hungry Marie. Go check it out. Stellar artwork, good writing overall. Just a fun time. A nice little relaxer, especially after the last manga we talked about, right? Ajin, like, whew, man, this is a nice refresher. Did you check it out already? Or did you check out Beelzebub? I would love to hear your guys' opinion on either of those series. Again, I think Beelzebub's highly underrated. So you could give us an email about that over at unversepodcast@gmail.com. We would love to talk about it on the next episode, as always. And then, of course, Unverse Podcast on social media if you want to stay up to date when these episodes drop. Thanks for listening, guys. And we will catch you on the next episode.